Well, good morning. Happy Wednesday to you. It is Wednesday, the third. What day is it? The 5th of March. Oh, it's starting to get light outside. I can see actually, I can peek through my vertical blinds and see a little bit of, it's not dark out there. It's looking pretty good. So pretty soon we'll be at the, what is it, March 21st, March 23rd is the equinox where there's the same amount of sunlight in the day as there is in the evening, probably when we get back from spring break. Thank you for joining me today. It's a beautiful day outside. It's a great time to be in Vail, Arizona. And just a couple things. One is that I'm not really sitting in an office with books behind me. So I'm actually using kind of like a green screen. And the reason I'm doing that is one, it simplifies preparing in the morning. And I could do a more interesting backdrop if I wanted to. So, for example, yesterday we were talking about Herod, and Herod made a city called Tiberias on the east side of the Sea of Galilee. And it actually still exists. And I was going to show you that this is what it looks like today. And I was going to show you that. And, you can't do that as a backdrop if you're in your office. So, and I might do that periodically from time to time. So there are some people who say that YouTubers should have as natural as a background as possible because what people crave is authenticity. And I understand that. But in today's world, like nothing's authentic. I don't know. So I'm just being open and honest, transparent with you. I still have the room that I am broadcasting right now has a bunch of junk in it. So if I were to turn off the background, you would see a mess. So and that's also a great opportunity. Let's see. And there's other things. I'm just playing with it at this point. I may go back to my normal bedroom, but I don't like the way it looks. I just don't. And so I'm trying to think of different ways to change it up a bit. All right. Let's see. As far as birthdays go, it is the 5th of March, and we don't have any birthdays today. But we will meet today, and we will meet tomorrow. And then we won't meet on Friday or Saturday or Sunday. Today, we'll get into that. And then all next week and all the following week is spring break for school. We have VBS next week. And then the following week, I'm going to go babysit my grandbabies. And so I won't be here next week or the following week. But then we'll pick up again. What day would that be? That would be, I would just tell you what day that will be. On the 24th of March. Yeah, so it's the day after the spring equinox. So yeah, we'll be gone the week of the 10th and the week of the 17th, and then we'll be back on the 24th. So tomorrow, I'll give you all the birthdays between now and then. And yeah, today is Ash Wednesday. This is the official start of Lent. It's all the days between now and Palm Sunday, excluding Sundays. So that gets us the 40 days in the wilderness, which is where this all starts. And so tonight, I'll be preaching on Jesus' 40 days in the wilderness. I think that's what I'm preaching on. I'm also preaching on that on Sunday, so I might have to chop it up a little bit. But if you'll remember, when Jesus started his public ministry, he was out in the wilderness for 40 days, and then he came out of that, and then he did his ministry for 3 years, and then he was killed. So we always start off the Passion story with the story of Jesus 40 days in the wilderness, if that makes sense. And then we move towards. We have moving out of that, we get into Easter week, which is Palm Sunday, Maundy Thursday, which is a new commandment I give to you, the Mandatum, which gives us Maundy Thursday. Then Good Friday, and it's called Good Friday because he died for our sins. And then you have Holy Saturday and then Easter Sunday, and then you're out of the Easter season. This is a later Easter, I think, than we normally have, because Easter is the first Sunday after the first full moon, after the equinox, the spring equinox. So the spring equinox would be, I think we're probably about 10 days out from the full moon. So 10 days from now would be, so the equinox would be the 23rd. And so it'd be the first full moon, the first Sunday after the first full moon after the equinox. So, I mean, you could look at a calendar and figure it out. Full moons are about 28 days apart. All right. Is there anything else I want to say? I think that's about it for right now. We're going to go into a story. Well, let me get rid of this because this is bothering me. You're like, what is that? It's just a trailer. And I'll tell you why in a second, because we're going to do some other things. All right. So we're going to go into our story today. We are in Mark chapter 6. Jesus is now teaching, and he's starting to get a crowd. And so we'll pick up the story in Mark chapter 6, verse 30. I'll press that button. All right. And you can see me in the corner. And I can take myself out of the corner. See how that cool is? All right. Maybe I'll take myself out of the corner. No. The apostles gathered around Jesus and reported to him all they had done and taught. Then, because there were so many people were coming and going that they did not even have a chance to eat, he said to them, "Come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest." So Jesus is teaching, and people are just crowding around him. So he gets into they're just So he's like, we've got to get away from this crowd. This crowd is too much for us. Jesus likes his time alone. He loves teaching, but then he loves his time alone. And this is a time to be alone. Verse 32. So they went away by themselves in a boat to a solitary place. But many who saw them leaving recognized them and ran on foot from all of the towns and got there ahead of them. And when Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd, so he began teaching them many things. So Jesus teaches, and he's like, I need to get away by myself. They get in a boat, they go somewhere, and then the crowds show up, and he's like, well, I guess if they're here and they need to hear my message, if they want to listen to me, then I'll teach them. And so he starts teaching them many, many things. Now, the question is, where is this? And it's on the coast of the Sea of Galilee. It's in Tabgha, Israel. And there's a church there. I don't know if it is, it's 2,000 years ago. Sometimes they create markers of places just because they were able to make money off of it, not necessarily because it was the place that Jesus did this. But the place now is called the Church of the Multiplication of the Loaves and the Fishes. And if I do this correctly, this is a Google map, Google Earth. So this is what the Earth looks like. We are here in Arizona, right in here. And so if I hit go, I think I can go over to where this is. So we go all the way across Africa through the Mediterranean, and this is the Church of Tabgha. How's that? And so this is the Sea of Galilee. I'll just back up a little bit. The Sea of Galilee. And this is Capernaum up here. So he gets into the sea and he comes down here, which is on the north coast. And you have the Church of the Primacy of St. Peter and the Church of the Multiplication of the Fishes right here. So he's in this area right here on the northern end of the Sea of Galilee. And now, whether or not it's actually the place or not, I have no idea. I don't see any reason why it couldn't be. And the reason why I'm so curious about this is because I'm just, you want to know how far did he walk? Where did he go? How far did he boat? If he went from Capernaum to here, it doesn't look like it's more than about, 20 miles or 15 miles, which is a pretty good distance to go by boat. He probably, I can see, well, sometimes I get overwhelmed by crowds too, and I need to get off into a solitary place. So I completely understand Jesus doing this. So he had compassion on them because like sheep without a shepherd, so we get to teach them many things. All right, then what happens? Let me just move this up a little bit. By this time, it was late in the day, so his disciples came to him. This is a remote place, they said. It's very late. Send the people away so that they can go to the surrounding countryside and villages and buy themselves something to eat. But he answered, you give them something to eat. And this has always been, remember, this is happening. He sent them out 2 by 2. They're casting out demons, and then they come back. It's one thing to cast out demons, right? Because it's kind of in that supernatural world. But Jesus also does miraculous things in the natural world. And he wants his disciples to do the same thing. So they're like, give them something to eat. And Jesus is like, you give them something to eat. This isn't my job. You can do it. I have confidence that you can do it. And the disciples are looking around like, Jesus, we have no food. What do you mean give them somebody? We have nothing. There's 5,000 people out there and you want us to do something about it? But Jesus wants to build their faith. He wants them to see what God can do. And, he's right there. They certainly could have figured this out themselves, but they're still limited in what they can think of as possibilities because they haven't seen the amazing things that Jesus has done. Of course, the most amazing thing happens when he is raised from the dead. That is the most amazing thing. Everything else is secondary to that one. So he says, give them something to eat. And so what happens? That would take more than a half a year's wages. Are we to go and spend that much on bread and give it to them to eat? And Jesus says, well, how many loaves do you have? Go and see. So they found out and they said 5 and 2 fish. Then Jesus directed them to have all the people sit down in groups on the green grass. So they sat down in groups of hundreds and fifties, and taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and he broke the loaves. Then he gave them to the disciples to distribute to the people. He also divided the 2 fish among them all. They all ate and were satisfied. And the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces of bread and fish. The number of men who had been eaten was 5,000. So this is a large group of people. This is a fantastic miracle. This is probably one of the most impressive. The first miracle in John is changing the water into wine. He heals a lot of people, but this is a big one. And they call it the church of the multiplication because that's really what it is, right? It's a multiplication of the gifts from God to the people of God. And this is what we thank God for all the time, for his abundant blessings in all that we have. His multiplication doesn't stop. He still multiplies in this world. You just have to look for the multiplication. And I think we just finished a stewardship week, and one of the things that's challenging is to say, what should I give back to God? And so people look at their finances and they pray about it and they make a commitment for the next year. And the question is God going to multiply that? I'm not talking about a prosperity gospel where if I give $10 to God, he's going to put $100 in my bank account. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the blessings of day-to-day blessings and the joy of giving and the joy of freeing our heart from the things of the material world and seeing what God can do when we do that. And this is an example of that. This is an example of God doing a physical blessing because the people, we learned earlier in a different gospel that it was a boy that had given the fish and the bread. But God multiplies it. And that's God always multiplies. That's what he does. He's a God of multiplication. And we thank him for his multiplication. Is there anything else I want to say about this miracle? This is probably one of the most famous miracles of Jesus, the feeding of the 5,000. It just doesn't seem possible. I mean, from a standpoint of, if you try to rationalize your way into this miracle, it's like, well, maybe as it was passed around, the people said, there's not enough fish and loaves here, so we're not gonna take anything. Or maybe people put something in. That would be the human, right? The human response to this. Humans are very rational creatures. They only see what they can see and taste what they can see and hear what they can hear. But this truly is a miracle. Jesus does truly multiply the fish and the bread as it's passed around. I mean, 5,000 people, that's a lot of people. If you wanted to feed 5,000 people, how much would that cost today? Even if it was just peanut butter and crackers. I mean, how many boxes of crackers? In a package of crackers, there's 6 servings of 5 crackers. That's 30 crackers times 4. It's 120. And even if everybody 5 crackers and some peanut butter, you're talking about boxes. I mean, it'd be $4,000 worth of crackers. I mean, it's a lot of food that Jesus is distributing. All right. I think we'll leave that story. I like the story, and I like the miracle. It's probably one of the most famous miracles of Jesus. And that God's a God of multiplication. All right. We'll get to probably one of my next favorite miracles. And that is this one. Immediately, Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go ahead of him to Bethsaida while he dismissed the crowd. After leaving them, he went up on a mountainside to pray. Later that night, the boat was in the middle of the lake, and he was alone on land. He saw the disciples straining at the oars because the wind was against them. And shortly before dawn, he went out to them, walking on the lake. He was about to pass them by, but when they saw him walking on the lake, they thought he was a ghost, and they cried out because they saw him and were terrified. Immediately he spoke to them, and he said, "Take courage, it is I, don't be afraid." Then he climbed into the boat with them, and the wind died down, and they were completely amazed, for they had not understood about the loaves. Their hearts were hardened. All right, so this is Jesus walking on the sea. Now, wrong one. When I think it's in the Gospel of Matthew, or is that Luke? One of the other Gospels, Jesus calls Peter to get out of the boat and to walk onto the sea, and Jesus does. And then Peter sees the wind and the waves, and he kind of freaks out because he's walking on the water. So Jesus reaches down, picks him up, brings him back into the boat, and then he calms the sea. The word here for ghost, I love the word for ghost in Greek. It's phantasm. It's the phantasm. So he's in a boat in the middle of the lake, and the storm comes up. And of course, I would freak out too. If I saw Jesus on the lake walking on the water, that would be pretty cool. It reminds me of the story of the 3 guys that were fishing, and were they 3 pastors? And one of the pastors says, "Oh, I forgot something in my car." So he gets out, he walks across the water, comes back, and then the second pastor says, "Oh, I forgot something in the car." So he gets out and walks across the water, comes back. And the third pastor says, "Well, I have just as much faith as these guys." So he gets out of the boat and flops and does it 2 times. And the other pastor turns to the other and says, "Should we tell him where the stones are, right underneath the water?" Because it's just one of those miracles that you don't, you just don't see every day, someone walking on water. It's a pretty amazing miracle. Whenever anybody is doing something amazing. They say that he walks on water. Um, you know, right now you've got politicians that are doing things, and some people think it's amazing, and some people think it's horrible. Well, those politicians could walk on water, right? They're doing such an amazing thing. All right. Let's see. Anything else about this? Yeah, let's go over here. When they had crossed over, verse 53, they landed at Gennesaret and anchored there. And as soon as they got out of the boat, people recognized Jesus. And they ran throughout the whole region and carried the sick on mats to wherever they heard he was. And wherever he went, into villages, towns, or countryside, they placed the sick in the marketplaces. They begged him to let them touch even the edge of his cloak. To all who touched it, they were healed. So Jesus is getting quite a following. They're bringing the sick people. He goes, so the places that he's going are, let's see, Gennesaret. I thought it was Bethsaida too. Yeah, Bethsaida. So I'm just curious where Bethsaida is. Let's see if I can find this. Hold on. All right. So here we are at the church where they did the loaves, and now I'm going to go find Bethsaida, and it's over on the other side, Bethsaida Junction. Okay, and then from there he goes. Gennesaret. There's the Gennesaret Free Medical Clinic. Well, I don't know which one. Nope. Let's see if that's. Nope, that's not it. That's somewhere else. Okay. Sorry. It's not there. Oh, my goodness. We'll just find the Gennesaret Free Medical Clinic. All right. Going halfway across the world here. That one is in Indiana. It's not there. Oh, my goodness. I should prepare for this. Well, it's somewhere near the Sea of Galilee. I guess I'd have to look that up. All right. He's building a crowd, folks. He's building a crowd. And people are coming to him to get healed, to listen to him preach, and to talk about salvation and things that people need to hear. And because of that, the crowds are getting larger and larger. And as the crowds get larger and larger, it's going to be, Jesus is going to run into trouble because the authorities that live in this area do not like large crowds. Large crowds can cause insurrection. Large crowds can cause trouble. And even though Jesus is a peaceful man and he's doing amazing, miraculous things, the leaders of the day don't like the fact that he's doing these things. And so they're going to plot against him. And we will see that when we get back together again and see what the plot against Jesus looks like. So I think we'll end it there. Let me see over here. Let's close in prayer. Gracious God, thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you for the opportunity to study your word. Until we meet again, keep us in your grace. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. Let me go over to here. And thank you, all of you, for joining me. Mark says 5,000 men, but most likely there were many women and children also, which is more amazing. Yes, yeah, 5,000 men. And then if there's women and children, you'll have more people. And that would even be amazing. And we know there was at least one boy there, right? Because he was the one that provided some loaves and fishes. And happy birthday to all of you, or happy Ash Wednesday to all of you. Yeah, I'm going to go and get ashes this morning, and I pray that you will also. And then we have a 9 o'clock service to give ashes, and then we have a 7 o'clock evening service tonight to give ashes. And before the 7 o'clock service, we have a dinner at the church, so that'll be fun. And yeah, so that's what we're doing today. And I pray that God richly blesses you. And thank you for joining me. And we'll talk to you later. God's blessings. Bye.